I literally deleted every app off my phone because every time I went on there, it was just people telling me I'm a terrible mom. I shouldn't have kids. I'm abusing my kid. That I don't deserve to be a mother.
All right, welcome to this week's vlog, and today actually Lydia is ready to open up about her postpartum experience and everything that we went through. So it's all you, Lydia.
We'll just mention that you're feeling so much better.
I'm feeling a lot better. It was a bad
like
cold.
4 days?
Yeah, well mine was only like a couple days.
Yeah.
I was stopped up for a little bit and still a little bit stopped up, but don't actually have the sore throat or the coughing that I did have for a couple of days. So thankfully that's over.
Feeling a lot better, and Riker is literally 100% himself.
Yes.
And I am too, so that's a big blessing, but I think a lot of people are sick. It's going around.
It is.
Anyway, I did a video last week, and we did a Q&A, and it was just me and Riker. So talking about my postpartum, because I was like, you know what, honestly, I've never talked about it. It's 7 months now since I've had him. I was like, why not share it? So we just decided to do that this week. A lot of people reached out and said they'd love to hear it. It feels like it's been forever.
It does. It has been a long time. It's crazy that people always say, time flies, and before you know it, they're 18, and it is crazy, but time has flown.
It seems like there's an old people thing to say until you have kids.
Yeah.
The moment you have little kids or a kid, then you're like, wow, that's very true. So now we're the old people that say that.
Very, very true.
We used to make fun of them, or I did. Anyway, let's talk about it. I feel like the birth we shared, I think we talked about that.
I think
it
the
was
birth
pretty easy.
Yeah, it went great.
I feel like we were, I would say, as prepared as one could be to be parents. Yeah. And Riker was a really easy baby. It was a still pretty big adjustment. I feel like there's a couple things, if I went back, I would change. One of them being I would probably have a lactation consultant, which in just the rush of things, I was like, I don't know, in the mindset of like, oh, it'll come naturally. I'll just figure it out when the baby's here. And so I wasn't super prepared. I mean, I had my mom, your mom, so I had a lot of good advice, but I don't know. I just mentally wasn't prepared, I don't think. So that ended up being a lot harder than I thought. And I ended up pumping, which I did exclusively for 5 months, 4 months, 4 or 5 months. And then I ended up getting pregnant with the baby that we miscarried. So I wasn't able to I know some moms can, but I wasn't able to keep pumping. So that's why I only did it for 5 months, but it was crazy. It was a lot.
All right, so why don't you just start and just walk through just let everyone know the whole process of the birth, getting home, everything that you had to deal with, and just start from the start.
The birth went pretty smoothly. I feel like we had him within less than 12 hours, which for inductions, first baby, is pretty rare. So that went pretty good. Then we had him at midnight. The nurses are great. If you're having your first baby, call those nurses for every question you have. I literally did that all night long because I could not swaddle him because I couldn't reach over because everything was hurting so bad.
That was tough trying to learn. That was definitely hard.
And Trace was so tired because he'd been up for so many hours because we went in the midnight before. And then 24 hours later is kind of when everyone left. We had the baby and we just never got sleep. He never did either. So we were just really tired. But I feel like that was hard to figure out, the swaddling, and now we're pros. We can have more kids, and you could swaddle them up so fast. But I feel like the first couple nights in the hospital were not that difficult because we had a lot of help we could call on, and then we ended up coming home, and then we had him.
How was feeding him in the hospital?
So whenever Riker was born, I feel like the first couple days of nursing, I don't think the first day was not that hard. Then I ended up finding out that he didn't have any ties or anything, but he had a very, very strong, it's kind of weird to talk about, but he just had a very strong latch, which then was not great for me, ended up being very, very painful, which is why then I started pumping. So I had pumps in the hospital.
Yeah.
They just said, do that to help, or do that every other one to help it heal, which ended up just getting worse. So I switched to just pumping, and he took a bottle, like no problem at all. So we started I would pump, and then we would take turns feeding him, which was great because then Trace could help out a lot with the night shifts. But most babies, right after they're born, they lose a little bit of weight, and then they have to like eat and make up for it. And they're usually right back to their birth weight within a couple of days.
He was born at 6'8".
Yeah.
And then when we left the hospital, I think a day later, he was at 5'11", but they said that's very normal. They said that just, feed him every 2 hours and he'll grow up. And then we had the pediatrician the very next day, and he'll gain weight.
So we got discharged, and then in like the afternoon, and then we came next morning at like 9 a.m.
We went to the pediatrician.
Don't ever make a 9 a.m.
That was the early one.
Appointment after your first night alone with your baby. Do it later, just for those moms who are having babies. Yeah, so then we went the next day for a checkup, and he had gained how much?
They said he was doing great. They said he gained almost up to his birth weight.
Yeah.
And they said just keep doing what you're doing. Feed him, wake him up, feed him every 2 hours. And then they were like, he looks like he's growing great, but let's come back in like, I think 3 or 4 days to see if he's over 7 pounds, because when he gets over 7 pounds, then
that's like newborn.
Yeah.
So because he was under it, I feel like that's why you'll just go on more checkups just to make sure that they're right on track and they gain so that you can get to that newborn size, because we did have him 2 weeks early.
Yeah.
So he was a little bit light, but he gained pretty fast, I feel like.
Now, before the birth, she had all these ideas of Instagram posts she's going to make and let everyone know everything. But you feel like after that, you didn't really post a lot. Like, is that because it was just overwhelming, or?
During, like right after I had the baby?
Yeah, right after I had the baby in a couple days.
I had it set up, so I was like, I wanted to edit my own photos. I was way too tired to edit my own photos. So I feel like it was probably like 12, 24 hours after we had the baby that everyone was like asking if it went okay. I wasn't on my phone at all, so I didn't see it, but y'all were like, people are concerned, Lydia. You need to make sure people know that you're a baby and you're doing okay. So we did a little post. But yeah, I didn't post a ton. There was just so much going on behind the scenes, I feel like, that I never talked about. That was just pretty emotional, I feel like. So I wanted to wait a while, which is why I was just sitting here the other day and I was like, you know what? That was actually a crazy experience and I never talked about it. My family, which a lot of y'all remember, my family was going through a lot of legal things at the moment, and was looking like we were gonna get deported as well as my family. And that started like a little bit before I gave birth, and I knew it was coming, and I just wanted everyone around me to not really talk about it because it was scary. I was afraid it was going to set me into labor earlier, and I didn't want a baby earlier than 2 weeks. So I feel like all of it kind of hit after we had Riker, because then we were on a time crunch having to figure out different things that we can do, and it was a lot. So we had him, and then I think it was 2 weeks that we had a date that we had to have legal stuff figured out by then, right?
Yeah.
It's almost a blur. Trace was so sweet. He handled all the phone calls and everything we had to do and figure out so that I could focus on the baby. It was difficult because I didn't realize that I'm gonna get emotional. I didn't realize that how much stress can affect your milk supply, which thankfully with pumping, I pumped every 2.5 hours. So my supply was like about 3 times the amount of Riker was eating. So my freezer stash was just filled. Like I was about to have to go get me another freezer because it was so full. But with the stress of everything, I ended up getting mastitis. Like the first week I was home. And then I got it twice back to back simply off of that. And it really did then the second time affected, and I had to wake up even more and pump more just to get my supply back to what it was, which I didn't realize that the stress affects that. So definitely will know that next time around. But should I talk a little more about the deportation stuff? That pretty much we have like videos up in the past if y'all want to watch that talks in detail about all of it. But yeah, so we had about 2 weeks. It was looking like it was not as scary, I feel like, for you and me, but my family.
Yeah.
And it was just, you don't want to have your first baby and then find out your parents might have to leave the country. Because they were also trying to come over and help out as much and hold the baby. It was supposed to be a really sweet time. It was first grandbaby, and it was just a little clouded with the stress of all of that going on at the same time, which I feel like it was almost a blessing in a way that I had a baby because it was a distraction. So I could just sit and hold my baby instead of stressing about legal stuff that I can't really change.
So we got home, and like I said, we went to the pediatrician the next day, and they said he's doing really good. And we thought we had to sterilize the bottles and the pumps after every 2 hours. So the first couple of days were not a lot of sleep. So we actually had help over from my family. So my mom and then some of my sisters, Adiela and Callie, would take turns coming over. So I know Lydia's mentioned in the past, and the best thing and advice that I would give to anybody is just having support and having help.
It's a huge blessing to have family and friends that are able to come over and help. Like, even if it's household things or if it is holding your baby so you can have a nap.
Right. So even right off the bat, like Lydia said, she was pumping a ton because she was pumping every 2 hours, and our freezer was definitely full of breast milk. And right off the bat, it was very easy. So Lydia was pumping every 2 hours, and then I was sterilizing the bottles just because I thought that's what we had to do. And they start the time from the start of the feeding, or the pumping and the feeding. So
it's 2.5 hours from the start of a pumped for all of it. Usually took about 20 minutes. Then the pumps had to be cleaned, reset. The milk had to be put up. Yeah. So it's about the whole process, probably like 45 minutes, and then basically like an hour and a half later, you're doing it again.
In the day, it wasn't that hard, but at night, for us getting up, that was harder. So it was very nice that family came over and was able to help in the night, because that was the biggest help. In the day, I'm already awake. I can't sleep in the day. But you could rest a little bit. But in the night, it was very nice because they would keep Riker. We had a bassinet out here and then everything for him. And then Lydia had tons of milk. So they would just warm that up and then feed it to him.
It made a huge difference.
Very nice. So we went back to the pediatrician, I want to say 4 days after, 4 or 5 days after we got back. And they said, okay, he's doing great. He's over 7 pounds. Keep doing what you're doing. Feed him, in the day every 2.5 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours in the day. But at night, if he, sleeps longer, let him sleep. But when he cries or when he wakes up, feed him. And for us, it was nice because we had siblings over here. And if he cried, which he never made it more than 2.5, 3 hours, that they would feed him. But when you got home, Lydia was just wanting to give a recap of everything that happened through the week. So on Instagram, you were explaining everything. And I want to say,
a little story.
Yeah, you did a story. And she was like, Riker lost a little bit of weight. And
I think I said good amount.
Yeah, she said he lost a good amount of weight. But honestly, they said it was very normal to lose from 6'8" to 5'11" and then gain it right back. Because the very next day was almost to his birth weight. So it's not really, they said it's very normal. So you said he lost a good amount of weight, and you said you went to the pediatrician, and they said that we don't have to wake up through the night to feed him every 2.5 hours, just whenever he cries, feed him. And that's just what we were told. And that's what we were going to do. But you said you were able to get some sleep. It was nice because at the night, since we had my siblings over and help, that Lydia had a full freezer that they could wake up and feed them. And if Lydia wanted to sleep a little bit longer, she could in the night. But she still was waking up every 2.5, 3 hours to pump. Or in the night, she could, sleep a little bit longer and maybe skip one feeding, but it doesn't mess it up.
Yeah, I was nervous to push her because I've just heard that to get a regular supply, you need to regularly pump. So I was trying to pump every time he was waking up to eat, which was around 2.5, 3 hours. Sometimes if I was absolutely exhausted, I would push it to 4 hours, but usually every 3 hours I'd pump.
But she
Little
pumped
alarm.
over that, but we had someone here feeding him, either me in the day or my siblings or my mom, which y'all know has had 19 kids and knows
She's so
a
sweet.
lot about them, and was helping us, but was feeding them every a couple hours. So you got over the first mastitis right after all about the family deportation and all that. And we're getting over the top. It looks like we're making headway, and we're very excited.
I'm starting to feel a little better. It was
starting
like close to 2
Yeah,
weeks.
it was about 1 week and a half. You were starting to feel a lot better. You were
Getting in a routine.
getting in a good routine, being
Yeah.
able to post and just interact with everyone, letting people know what's going on.
We also ended up calling up your sister and asking about pumping because I feel like we didn't go into it expecting it. So then we got all the details of like how to do it, which I'll talk about later. All the pumping recommendations I have. But so we figured that out, knew when to sterilize them, how to clean them, without having to sterilize them every 2 hours.
And I want to say we got it honestly in a really good system,
Yeah.
and we were able to. You were able to pump. I was able to still get some sleep, and like I said, we were so blessed to have family over to help in the night, and that made such a massive difference.
I didn't realize that. So if I pump 40 minutes, he cleaned everything, reset it for 30 minutes. Someone has to then, let's say then I was feeding the baby.
He took a long time.
All of that, he was very slow. He'd wait 40
He's a slow
minutes.
eater.
He'd go to sleep and you'd have to re-wake him up. And all of that probably took 2 hours. And so then you'd have literally an hour to then wake up and do the entire thing again around the clock, which is why it made such a big difference to have people come over at night and help, because then we'd get not an hour of sleep, we'd get like 2 hours of sleep. So that was nice.
The real thing that really took a turn for the worse that made everything really a lot more difficult was right after that week where you shared that, and someone that we don't know, but we put our lives out there so people can say, we're influencers.
People get and
they
are
have their
invested,
opinion.
and then they like to let us know how
so they can
feel
say what they want. But
Thanks.
they took what Lydia said, and Lydia did not word it in the best way.
I was very sleep deprived, and looking back, I realized I shouldn't have said it the way I did. But in my head, I was just updating all the people that have been asking how I'm doing, and I didn't really think much about it.
You worded it bad, but what was we were told, and we were still doing everything right. Feeding them. You were able to get sleep because we had help here. There was tons of milk in the fridge, and he was still eating every 2.5, 3 hours, no matter what. And someone made a post, I guess, out there on Instagram or whatever, and saying that we were neglecting our child, not feeding our child, and that you were not a good mother. We were having people emailing or DMing us in a comment saying that
the person basically told all of their followers to go call child services on me for supposedly not feeding.
Yeah, and
reaching out
and
letting
then
me
after
know that.
the things that she did say, the person did delete those first posts about that, so she'll now claim that she didn't tell people to do that. But we had a bunch of people saying they're calling DHS on us because we're not feeding our child, and of course it wasn't true because we were doing exactly what the pediatrician told us to do. They said everything was right. He was very healthy, and
We literally had people here whose whole purpose
was just to feed him.
To make sure every time he makes a sound that he gets changed, fed, and held.
So then all of a sudden, on my Instagram, on Lydia's Instagram, and she also is a photographer, so her phone number's out there. She was getting threats saying you shouldn't have been a mother. Go back to your country. You shouldn't have a child.
Because of all the deportation stuff in between.
Just cussing out and just saying terrible things.
It was so bad.
And this is a first-time mother that is doing everything she can. She has wonderful help, wonderful support. She has my mother that's had 19 children. Her mother's had 7 children. Mm-hmm. So we had a pediatrician that's telling us to do everything, and we were doing exactly what we were told. And I feel like that was the most stressful, and that sent you back into, you got sick, you got mastitis again, you're running a fever, and this is all
so sad
because of stress. And then next thing we know, we're getting phone calls from like Good Morning America, different newslet people saying that, do we have any comments on us neglecting our child and not feeding our child? And of course it was all untrue. And they even came out with the article, and in the article they asked, a pediatrician, are they doing anything wrong? And they said, no, they're doing exactly what the doctor said. After we let the news article that, hey, this is not actually true.
We decided to
Yeah,
respond on it. Usually we try to ignore the haters and not really respond, but that was like hitting the news. So we're like, we should make sure they know that.
Well, for 2 days,
that's ridiculous.
Lydia really couldn't get on her phone because I'm talking about.
I literally deleted every app off my phone because every time I went on there, it was just people telling me I'm a terrible mom. I shouldn't have kids. I'm abusing my kid. That I don't deserve to be a mother.
Go back
Which
to your
I feel like is the worst thing that you could say to someone.
Yeah, there's just the first
because
time.
Because I knew it wasn't true, but like, how am I going to respond to like hundreds of thousands of people literally emailing me that I don't deserve to be a mother and I should go back to a country I belong, which that was its own little thing. But I was getting so much hate and people hating on me literally, A, being in this country, and 2, having a baby, which they claimed I didn't take care of. And I was like, my baby is so happy. I'm like holding him.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so crazy, but like it was just so depressing, and I had just gotten into a good place, and then I ended up getting fever, I got mastitis again, and then it took a while for me to recover, and I was like, honestly, I have to fully get off social media and delete everything, and I didn't want, I was not answering phone calls because there's news people asking why I'm not feeding my child.
Which is sad.
And I was like, Trace, I can't.
It was very untrue. There's
so many people that are actually like out there being bad parents and doing like crazy things. I was like, why make up stories about me when I'm just literally doing nothing wrong?
Then the same person tried to compare you to someone that has abused children and was saying that you were similar to that.
There was a huge story around that time about someone who actually sent jail and actually really was an awful parent and abusing their kids. But I was like, why would you compare me to that? I literally, because, and then I got so much hate for having help. They were like, how dare you have help? You should be doing it by yourself. Don't make other people do it. And our pediatrician and all our doctors were like, the best thing you can do is have support. Like, even if it's a couple hours a day, have your mom drop in, because it just emotionally helps so much. Obviously, after a couple weeks, we had a good routine, and we were, like, at that point, knew how to do everything on our own and how to handle the lack of sleep so much better. But I feel like the biggest thing you can have is support and have your family, and it's a huge blessing, and it's not a bad thing to have your mom or whoever come over. It's also really sweet. They love seeing their grandchild or niece or nephew. Like, it's a sweet time, and it was insane. I can't believe that honestly happened.
I can't either, just because I feel like mama shaming is such a bad thing. And for a first-time mother that is trying to do everything right, that has wonderful help, that is doing exactly what the doctor said, that has a fridge full of breast milk, a freezer, has help over here to help him through the night, just so she could get sleep, because she was waking up every 2.5 hours, every 2 hours to pump. So Lydia was not getting a lot of rest herself. And to be able to where she could not even look on her phone because they were saying just all kinds of cuss words, and you shouldn't be a mother, and we're calling DHS on you and all this stuff. Nothing we did was wrong because we were doing exactly what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And even the news article, they actually came out and said something about, they were not going to, listen to the person that was reporting all this false information. We don't even know this person, never met him at all. And yes, I do understand that Lydia did word the story wrong in saying that he lost, because he did lose weight.
He did.
But it was very normal.
Every baby usually does.
Yeah, so I think Lydia probably could have worded it better to let everyone know.
It scarred me.
Yeah.
Since then, I still don't share a huge amount on social media, and I was really tempted in completely quitting everything. But at the same time, I was like, well, why should I let one hater just ruin like what I enjoy doing?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just gonna step back and then Trace handle a lot of it for a while.
But
It was a hard time. And then I feel like just 2-3 weeks after he was born, it was so different. Everything got so much easier. All of the hate kind of disappeared. But I feel like it was really sad because it's just such a sweet time, that first month with your newborn. And I feel like that was kind of, in a way, taken away from us because we didn't really get to just have a relaxing experience.
But now that's like a blur for Lydia.
I don't like to think about it. I just kind of blocked that whole time out, and I feel like I'm very excited to down the road have another child and actually get to enjoy it.
About after 2.5 weeks after all of that, things like Lydia said started to die down. People started realizing that was not true. He was gaining a lot of weight, and then they were like, oh, he also has a lot. The same person said that in every photo that he had jaundice, and our pediatrician said no, he didn't. He just he was very tan. So there's a lot of weird things that people just claim that every time we go to our pediatrician, they're like, no, he's very healthy. He's very fine. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work.
We'd go so stressed. We'd be like, is everything okay? Like, are you sure he's not a little torn? So they're like, no, he looks great. We're like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. Every time they're like, he looks so healthy. You're doing everything right. You're blessed to have a very healthy baby. And we're like, okay.
But after about that 2.5 week mark, it really just seemed like it really took a turn for the best for us. We were getting in a very good groove. We were able to family came over in the day just to see him and hang out, but we took turns doing night shifts, so it worked out really good.
Then one of us always got to have a sleep, and yeah, I would just pump.
You would pump, and then I would be able to just go heat up the milk that was in the freezer, feed him, and we had a really good system. It really took a turn for the best, and ever since then, it has been great. I think we work really good as a team, and as you can see, Riker is a very healthy.
He's actually awake. I'm gonna grab him while you talk about it.
He's a very healthy baby, and he's been doing great, and we're blessed. He's been able to sleep really good through the night, so that has made our lives a lot easier. And he loves to sleep, so he's definitely a Bates, and Bates do not have a problem with sleeping.
We brought Riker back, so you woke up from your nap. Yes, you did. Did you have a good nap? You like what's going? Hi.
Hey, are you saying hi to everyone?
We're talking about when you're a little tiny baby. Yeah. Yeah, now you're a cute baby, huh? You got all big? You big baby now? Yeah. So you still a little baby. But I feel like one of the biggest blessings was he was such an easy baby. He would just wake up, eat, and then honestly just go right back to sleeping. So he was super fun just to cuddle. Huh? Yes, you were. And when he was awake, he would just look around. He was, even like when he was tiny, he was already so intrigued by like just everything. Yeah. So he would just stare and look.
Curious. He's a curious little boy.
So curious. He would just lay, and he loved having like his little play gym and staring at it. Haha. Yeah. Now he's a curious boy that chases Mommy around.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he does. Looking back on the whole experience, the only thing that I feel like I would like to, that is in, my hands to change next time around, is I'm going to probably try to nurse the next baby, because as I feel like everything has its pros and cons, but with pumping, it was nice because we could take turns, and like if I was really tired, I could, like, down the road, I could sleep longer, and all I had to do was pump, and he would clean them, and he would feed Riker, which was nice. Like, if you are nursing, then obviously you don't have to clean the pumps and all that, but it is up to the mom to wake up every 3 hours and feed the baby, do all of that. And it's harder for the dad to, like, be involved and help, like, kind of share that. But at the same time, pumping is a lot. If you pump, I feel like my recommendations is hands-free pumps. Yeah. Those make a big difference, so you don't have to sit in one spot. Having like machines that sterilize and clean them, it'll make it a lot easier. So you don't have to hand do it. We also don't have a dishwasher, but I think you can put pumps into the dishwasher.
But
we just didn't have one of
No, we don't have
those.
one. But also listen to like a podcast or find a TV show or something like.
So
Make it go
the
by
sound
faster.
of pumps is like the most, when you're tired, it can put you right to sleep. So if you have to wake up every 2 hours to pump, I would recommend, I just put my AirPods in, so just put something in your ear so you don't hear the constant sound of the pumps. And just listen to something. If you like to read, have like a little tablet, read a book, but I would just watch shows, watch something interesting so you stay awake. And I just did that through my whole pumping experience because it made it so much more fun instead of dreading it, especially if you watch something that's fun and you're like, oh, at least I get to watch and see what the next episode is or whatever. But that helped a lot. And then I had 2 sets of pumps, so at night I could always have a clean extra set. So we eventually did that, and that helped a lot. But yeah, my recommendations would be hands-free ones, and we also kept a mini freezer bag right by the bed, so we could easily just put the milk in there, keep it cool, or you can have like a mini fridge right by your bed, so then you can put everything right in there. You don't have to worry about getting up and going to your kitchen. That helped a lot too. So you just want to say hi.
Yeah, he does.
You just want to say hi. Say, I have all the energy. I just want to say hi. Hi. Whoa. Hi. Say, they're talking about me. Are they talking about you? Are they talking about you? Hi. But yeah, that's pretty much the crazy postpartum experience that I wasn't expecting. I feel like we prepared ourselves as good as anyone can with the first baby. There's just a lot of stuff that came along that we couldn't control, and it made it so much harder. The baby, we always said, was the easiest part.
He really was.
We said everything else was hard. The baby itself was the easiest. I feel like now we should be prepared for anything.
Oh, yes.
I probably don't want to say that, but yeah. But it's crazy. Also, if you're in that little blur of those first couple of weeks, it's crazy how fast they grow. And like by a month, you're already feeling so much better. You have your energy back, and it just gets so much easier so fast. So yeah, enjoy those little cute newborn cuddles if you have a little one.
And our advice to any new mother or people that are mothers that are about to have a kid, I would say is have support. Having your mother, having someone come over, sibling, whatever, if you have one to help out.
I feel like don't
be a massive
don't be scared to ask for help. I know it's hard for a lot of people that don't have a support or they live far away from family, but if you do, and you're blessed with that, don't be afraid to ask for help.
For sure.
Because a couple weeks later, you're gonna be doing better. You're not gonna need help. But those first couple of weeks, it made a huge difference.
Yes, it did.
And then I feel like everyone also has a really sweet, close bond to him because they got to feed and hold him.
Right.
Because he was just so cute.
Yeah, we're going to say goodbye. That was a lot.
It was a crazy video.
But
hopefully next week's will be a little more lighthearted.
yes.
But yeah, I think we have some fun things coming up.
We do.
So
we're going to the farm. We love going to the farm, but we're also going to join, I think, Aaron and Chad down there. So it's going to be fun.
The next one will be fun. So we will see you
later
next week. Bye. Say bye-bye. Okay. Yep. Okay. And that's it.